Steve Yabsley.
BBC Radio Bristol.
Well, all this week on the programme at this time, you'll find me in beautiful rolling Somerset countryside. I've come to Stawell, not far from Cossington, and I'm with Dave Bearman, who actually breeds alpacas. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Steve. Nice to meet you.
Let's find out a little bit about you, first of all, because I understand as a young gentleman, you had an interest in wildlife, didn't you?
Yep, I collected all the World of Wildlife magazines for as long as I could afford them. Little did I know it would lead to alpacas later on. I couldn't afford the whole series, but I used to spend my pocket money from my paper rounds, which was in Bedminster Down, Headley Park in Bristol.
Now tell me what you've done professionally over the years.
I'm a structural engineer, consultant structural engineer. I work for myself.
So that's your proper engineering work, but this is a softer side of you, isn't it?
This is the full-time hobby. I started putting my pension investment into this rather than leave it with a boring institution to lose. So this is a long-term project.
Why did you go for alpacas?
I had a client who had some, so I came across them there one day down in Devon. We were looking to have a bigger garden. Joy in particular wanted to grow more vegetables and have some hens. We found this one and an acre it had, which was too much. So we wondered what to fill an acre with. One of my sons said, well, get a sit and ride mower. And I thought, well, burn petrol, that seemed a waste of money just to drive around. Maybe alpacas. And I went back to this client and had a look and mentioned it to Joy, and the rest is history.
Well, let's just set this place on the map, as it were. We're at Stawell, which isn't far from Cossington. It's a lovely part of the world. Not many people would come here normally, though, would they?
No, not even many local people know of it.
Tell me a bit about the area.
It's very handy to Bridgewater, the M5, but not many people from there know it. We're on a hill, the Polden Hills, which runs from Bridgewater really in the west through to Street and Glastonbury in the east. It's a nice ridge up above the levels, so we don't suffer from flooding problems.
And on today, which is a beautiful late summer afternoon, it's a gorgeous spot, isn't it?
It's fantastic, yeah. Can't beat it.
Tell me about the land you've got here. I know you've expanded a bit since you arrived, haven't you?
Yeah, so starting with an acre, you can keep up to about 5 alpacas per acre. We started with 3. They're social animals, so you would never have one, so we started with 3. 2 of those were pregnant as planned, so 3 became 5 the following year. So we were then more or less at capacity, and we looked around for extra land for several years because the bug had bitten us, and eventually we were able to buy another couple of acres, and they just overlap with our land, so we've got a through access.
Why did you go for alpacas? I mean, you could have gone for another animal.
Well, yeah, Joy wanted goats.
I like goats, but they smell a bit, don't they?
I don't know, I've never tried. Well, I suppose it was the possibility of an end product with alpacas, their fleece, which is why we breed them, fine and soft, as you'll see later. And I think they draw you in from the look, the appearance, their eyes. It's literally the appearance.
Well, they're eyeing us at the moment. Tell us a little bit about the history of alpacas, because they come from South America, don't they, originally?
Yes, they come from a region called the Altiplano, a high plain, mainly in Peru, 4,000 metres above sea level, so they're used to weather like this, clear but cold, and not so much rain. That's the bugbear with our climate for them, but they cope.
And I understand they've always been raised for their coats rather than their meat, because they're not that big as animals, are they?
No. In South America they do use them for meat when necessary, if they've got too many, I suppose, and there's a very small market in this country starting.
You rarely see it on the menu in British restaurants, so alpaca stew or a cut of alpaca.
Very exceptional, or some outdoor burger joints maybe. But you only get the meat once, whereas you get the fleece for 20 years.
Yeah, because more than half the animal seems to be the fleece when you look at them.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Particularly by May, once their fleece is fully grown.
Are they likeable animals?
Oh, totally. You'll love them when you meet them.
There you go. I'm building the tension on the programme because tomorrow we will be meeting the alpacas, and it gets better and better throughout the week. So that's Dave Bearman from Vale Alpacas. Tomorrow on the show, some actual alpacas. And if you're a fan of that sort of thing, you'll be able to hear them eating some hazel. Well, here I am once more at Stawell, not far from Cossington, and I've come to find some alpacas that are being raised by Dave Bearman and his partner Joy, and we're walking towards them now. What's this you got in your hand?
Hazel. Twigs of hazel leave off our hedge, which they love, They also like eucalyptus tree. Here
Well, they're running towards us now. I mean, they are most curious looking animals, aren't they? Because they're sort of like elongated sheep.
Exactly, yes. Just taller, a little bit more awkward to handle if you need to shear them.
Tell me about these individuals in front of us at the moment.
Our herd is called Vale alpacas. This area is renowned for its apple growing. There were hundreds of acres of orchards here previously. So we called the herd Vale, and then with each generation born, we name them after a variety of apple.
Well, this area, of course, has historically been an apple growing area, hasn't it?
Exactly. So we've gone through the alphabet, starting with A. We've had Ambrosia, Autumn Gold, Bramley, Camelots. We go through the apple producer's handbook. We've got Golden Delicious, or she's been sold, but we're now up to Gala, the little one there, this year's baby.
I think they're rather attractive. Now, sheep don't have a great reputation when it comes to brain power. What are the alpacas like? Are they intelligent creatures?
Very, yeah. They're very inquisitive. As you could tell, it didn't take long to come and see us.
Well, they were interested immediately in the recording process. I could see that in their eye.
Yeah, any little noise and their ears flick up and they look around, mainly because they're a prey animal, so in the wild they have to be aware of puma or whatever might be after them. But coupled with that inquisitiveness, there's a timidity as well. They have to be, wary that they're not going to be another animal's lunch.
Yeah, they've got to be a bit jumpy, haven't they? Now, they've all run off en masse. Why do you think that is? Have they had a waft of my cologne?
Must have been a puff of wind or something. They're probably interested in the boys up the top of the hill. We've got some studs up there.
Oh, well, let's wander towards them. I'll fit in nicely with those. Are they affectionate animals?
I wouldn't call it that, but they're curious. I can sit down in the afternoon or an evening and they'll come up and sniff all over and tug at your trouser legs, try to undo your laces. And they say in comparison to a sheep, you could leave a gate open in a field of sheep and it would take them hours to notice, whereas in 5 minutes the alpacas would have spotted it. Their inquisitiveness will have got the better of them. They'll go and have a look.
I think they're delightful looking creatures. I mean, they've got a very pretty face, lovely big eyes. Tell me a bit about their mouth, because they haven't got teeth all over their mouth, have they?
No, they have a bottom row of teeth only and they have a hard palate on the top. But their lips, I think they're called prehensile, so they're very mobile, as you can see the way they're eating these leaves.
Yeah, I wouldn't fancy kissing one of them because it could be quite a struggle, couldn't it?
I think it would.
And what about spitting? I mean, camels, to which they're related to, I know spit a lot. Do these ever spit?
Only at each other, a territorial squabble over a bale of hay or something. It's between each other that they use that.
Could you actually ride one?
No, they're too small for, certainly for an adult. You could put a small child on one, but llamas are the pack-carrying animals. Even then you wouldn't ride a llama, you just use them for heavy bags.
They love this, don't they?
Yeah. So they come in a range of 7 colours, main colours, 22 variations in that. White, fawn, brown, black and grey, and there's light and dark in all of those. And you can see we've got a variety of colours here. Mostly white. Joy uses their fleece in textile products, and white is more adaptable for dyeing process.
Of course, more flexibility, isn't there?
Yeah.
Have you got a personal favourite?
Each year we have a different favourite as they grow up.
Yeah, the little ones are always cute, aren't they?
We try not to get attached, but inevitably you do, just because of their nature.
There you go. That is the Alpaca man, Dave Bearman, and we'll have more from Dave on the programme later on in the week. Well, once again on the programme, here I am at Stawell, finding out about alpacas. My guide this week is Dave Bearman, and there's a herd of them around us at the moment. Now, they do make a variety of noises, including a sort of humming sound, don't they?
That's exactly what it's called, Steve, humming. Mothers will hum to their young. The young are called cria, C-R-I-A. Mothers will communicate with their cria by humming, and the cria back to them, just to make sure they're still within range. But also others, if they're a little bit concerned about something, they're more likely to hum. And the other sound, which you're unlikely to hear, it's very rare, is an alarm call. If they see a fox, for example, or a dog that they think might be like a fox, a predator, one of them, the leader, will let out a shrill alarm call. It's like a cross between a car alarm and a digital alarm clock.
Would they be good for guarding farms then? You know, if you had burglars breaking in, would they make a noise then?
Not burglars, no, but they do see...
What about burglars dressed as foxes?
Exactly, they're the worst type. And people do keep them as flock guards to protect their poultry, or even lambs. There are farms in the UK and Australia, the big sheep herds, flocks, they'll keep 3 alpacas to patrol the fence, and they'll see off a fox, and they will actually kill a fox by jumping on it. As timid as they look, they have been known to jump on a fox and flatten it.
We've come to the brow of the hill here on the edge of your land with the farmland rolling away in the distance. I mean, that's a beautiful view, isn't it?
It's fantastic, isn't it? It's always a surprise when we come up the hill, particularly for visitors, because you don't see it from the bottom. But all of that was flooded 2 winters back when the real bad flooding went on, but our land stops just as it levels off down there, so we were okay. But 3 months that was flooded.
Thank God that you were okay, because so many people suffered at that time, didn't they?
They certainly did. What we noticed down there was the sound from wading birds that had arrived, and we would come over here during the day, and it sounded like a children's playground. Just this endless chitter chatter and babble of the birds, which obviously you don't hear now.
Getting back to the alpacas, how long do they actually live for naturally if they were left to lead their life here?
They live for around 20 years, and they're capable of breeding for most of that. The females can. So pretty hardy, productive.
Tell me a bit about the breeding of the alpacas. How does that work? Do you get involved yourself?
Yes, what we do, because we're breeding along with most of the industry in the UK to improve the genetics, get finer fleece, more fleece from the animal for the textile industry. We select particular stud males from around the country, from other breeders, with genetics, with a good stud that looks like he can add to our females. Alpacas are what's known as induced ovulators, so they don't come into season. Literally the act of putting the male with the female will induce the ovulation. And over a matter of 2 weeks you can check that that's taken, and then 11 months later, hopefully a young one.
Tell me a bit about the birth process. Does that happen at night?
No, that generally happens in the daytime, usually the daylight hours to mid-afternoon. Historically, that gives them the most chance, the young one, getting its strength up for the evening so that they can escape a predator should there be one around. They do give birth outside that window, but 90% are morning, early afternoon.
Do you steer clear when they're giving birth, or are you on the edges in case there's a problem?
Oh no, we're on tenterhooks. Generally they birth all right. Sometimes they need a helping hand. They can get legs folded back and heads folded back, but we try to keep watch and bring them home to the closer paddock so we can keep an eye on them.
And can they walk immediately?
Yep, they'll be up within an hour, staggering around, a bit like the Martians from War of the Worlds, the fighting machines with their long gangly legs. And they should be feeding within a couple of hours, and then that same evening you'll see them charging around the paddock like lightning. It's incredible how they develop so quickly.
And the little ones are so sweet, aren't they?
Oh yeah, it's fascinating to watch. They're real time wasters.
What do you mean by that?
Well, once you come out to see them, you just can't stop watching.
Oh, they're not the time wasters. They waste your time.
They waste our time, that's right, yeah.
I'm glad we cleared that up. That's Dave Bearman from Vale Alpacas, and it has been said that we're providing on this particular programme more alpaca information than any other radio show on earth throughout the week. Whether that's a good thing or not, I can't judge, but we are definitely giving it to you on a day-by-day basis. Well, once again on the programme, here I am in wonderful rolling Somerset farmland at Stawell, and with me my guest all this week at this time is Dave Bearman, who has a herd of alpaca. How many have you got these days? What's your numbers at?
We're on 14 at the moment. We've just sold 3, so we were at 17, which was our capacity for the ground we've got. We need to sell a few because we want to breed each year, always improving genetics, and we've got hopefully 4 of these pregnant for next year.
I know that the manure is rather good, isn't it?
Yes, they have 3 stomachs, so it goes through 3 processes of digestion, and it is particularly good for your garden. It doesn't scorch plants. You can put it directly onto your plants. You don't have to compost it for months and months.
Well, going through 3 stomachs, it sounds like a very pure product. You could have it on toast, couldn't you?
Possibly, but I wouldn't like to try it.
What do you do with the manure that you have here then?
It's all in a big heap there, but we do use it on the allotments, and neighbours, villagers, anybody who wants it, we're happy to sell them a few bags.
Shift it, in effect.
Yes, because they're producing it every day, and it's a full-time job keeping on top of it.
The fact that they've got those 3 stomachs indicates that they're ruminants and they're eating grass principally, and it has to be worked on to digest, doesn't it?
Yes, and they're browsers too. They'll browse the hedges. They like the blackthorn, and as you could see, they like the hazel. They particularly like our eucalyptus if we break a few branches off of that. And they'll stand on their back legs and even reach the trees.
Now, it's not that easy sometimes to control them, and you've worked out a method with your wife, haven't you, using a bit of tape, I think?
Yes, if you haven't got 10 people, then a simple surveyor's tape measure or a long length of rope spread out, you can guide them down a fence line to a corner. Ideally, a gate would be in the corner of a field, or wherever you've got some hurdles to create a pen, and we'll herd them into that.
Well, maybe you could demonstrate that if you don't mind, Dave.
Let's have a go.
OK, just tell me what we've got here then.
So it's an ordinary surveyor's tape. We use this instead of a rope because it tidies itself away quite easily.
And we've got Joy at the other end. Hello, Joy.
Hello.
OK, and so you're walking apart from each other. Just talk me through what you're doing, Dave.
Right, opening the tape out, try and get the girls all into a mass together. They don't like it if we leave one behind. Come on then, girls, down we go.
And you've really strung it out to quite a long length now.
Come on then, off we go.
And what's interesting, I mean, the tape is nothing. It's just a bit of flimsy fabric, really, isn't it? And yet they're obeying the tape, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they might even think it's a bit snake-like. It's one of those things. Come on, girls, walk on, walk on. That's it, off we go. Done it before.
This is easy.
Go on, girls.
Have you had problems in the past without the tape when you've been trying to pin one down and they're elusive?
Well, certainly in our first week, we were green enough to try it on our own, and we were running all over the field. And there was only 3 of them then. Off we go, come on.
Well, you're easily controlling about 10 now. I mean, this is a testament to the professionalism that you've introduced.
Well, thank you. In we go.
Do you ever get a difficult one?
Oh, like time to time. When they're pregnant, they can become a bit sensitive as well. Let's get hold of one. I can show you their fleece and see how fantastic and soft it is. Come on, little one. There we go.
Oh, yeah, you've grabbed one here. Has this one got a name?
This is this year's baby, Gala.
Hello, Gala.
She was born in July, so she's just 6 or 8 weeks old. If you look into her fleece, see how bright and white.
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it?
And crimpy. See this little zigzag in the individual fibres.
Oh, it's like natural crimping.
Yeah, that helps it bind in when it's spun.
Do they like being stroked?
No, not straight, but they're quite happy to have the neck sort of rubbed underneath rather than on the face, along the side of their neck.
I'm quite happy to have my neck rubbed as well. The young alpacas are called cria, aren't they? What does that word mean, do you know?
Let's try baby. I don't know.
In the native South American language.
I guess that's where it came from, yes. There are 2 types of alpaca worth mentioning. These are called huacaya with a silent H, or huacaya. There's also suri. They're the ones that have dreadlocks. Ours, as you can see, are the fluffy teddy bear-like ones. But there are suri which look like a dreadlock. Their fleece hangs in long locks, twisted locks like dreadlocks, and they're only shorn every other year. Ours are shorn every year.
I think yours are slightly smarter.
Yes.
That's Dave Bearman from Vale Alpacas, and we'll have one more dose of Dave on the show tomorrow when we look at the many uses of the fleece of the alpaca. Well, for the final time this week on the programme, here I am at Stall finding out about alpacas, and my guide all this week is Dave Bearman. And Dave, I know the fleece that we were mentioning on the programme yesterday used to be called by the Incas the fibre of the gods.
Yes, it's that fine and soft that they prized it very highly, and that's how the market grew.
And you've got to respect the Inca civilization, haven't you?
They know what they're doing, or they knew what they were doing, didn't they?
Yeah, so tell me a bit about the cycle then of the fleece production. How does it work throughout the year?
They're shorn in May or June, as soon as you can really, once the weather warms up. By then their fleece will be between 4 and 6 inches long. They'll be glad to get it off once our hot weather comes. I shear them myself.
What's that like, shearing them?
Great fun. I was shown by a professional shearer. I've got the equipment.
What was it like when you did your first one on your own?
Amazing to get it done, yeah.
You didn't have to tranquilise them or anything?
No, there are methods of holding them. We lay them down, we shear one side, turn them upright, cross the back, turn them over, do the other side. Then you've got the neck to do, and the head, and the top knot, and then the tail and the back legs.
You could open a barber's shop here, you know. Have you got neater over the years?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Certainly after the first couple, it had a bit of a corduroy effect, but we're getting it better every year.
So what happens to the fleece then?
Then Joy will deal with ours, but in the wider industry, other breeders might package theirs up and send them to a mill to be spun by machine, but you usually need larger quantities for that to be economic, and that's one of the reasons the industry is growing, trying to grow, is to get more economic handling in the mechanical mills. But in our case, we deal with it all by hand, so it'll be taken into the studio here, which we're going to show you.
Joy is with us. Joy, just tell me what you do with the fleece when you're given it.
First of all, I lay it all out. I remove any rubbish and second cuts, and then I use it bit by bit, washing and carding it.
And is it nice to work with?
It's beautiful, yes. It's soft and it's just so silky and warm. Yeah, it's lovely.
OK, well, let's go into the studio, which you've built here especially for this. Oh, this is very nice. What happens in here then?
Well, we spent all year stuffing grass in one end of an alpaca, and we get fleece out the other end, or all ends. Joy will start by sorting out the fleece. Here's one of this year's. What have you got here, Joy?
This is a fleece from Elstar. As you can see, it's about 4 or 5 inches long, maybe 5.5.
And so soft to the touch, isn't it?
Extremely soft. And you see that crimp that Dave talked about earlier in there.
And you've got a whole array of colours here where you dye the lighter colour, presumably.
Yes, that's right. I just love bright colours, so I'm happier with the white fleece that I can dye, although I do try and dye the brown and fawn fleeces as well.
And what's this little device down here?
That's a carding machine. It aligns all the fibres so that when you're spinning or felting, everything's going in one direction.
And then it can be processed further.
Then it can be processed further, yes. Having been spun, of course, it can be knitted or crocheted. I prefer to actually either weave it or felt it. It's my 2 preferred methods.
I'm glad that you're working Joy so hard here, Dave.
Joy makes the short-term income while the long-term investment in the animals comes back.
And what can the fleece actually be made into ultimately then?
Well, we've got, for example, a lady's evening shawl felted there, woven scarves.
Oh, that's so soft, isn't it?
We've got knitted neck warmer, wrist warmers, hats.
There's an elf shoe there as well.
A felted elf shoe.
Is there much demand for those?
There's quite a few elves around Somerset, yes. Felted hats, felted shoe, felted bowls. You
said at the start of the week that you'd done this as part of your pension for the future. Is it working out, or has it been a terrible mistake?
Oh no, it's a long-term thing, all investment is. But something I often say to people is whatever financially we get out of it, there's something I do get is enrichment of life. It's something you caring for animals, exercise, it's an outdoor hobby.
Yeah, there's a pleasure in the husbandry, isn't there?
Absolutely,
itself?
Yeah. Looking after animals is always rewarding. And you get your ups and downs, as with all animals.
Thank you so much for being my guest this week.
Thank you, Steve.
That's Dave Bearman, who runs Vale Alpacas with his lovely wife there. My thanks to him for meeting up and introducing me to those super creatures. Why not consider one as a pet? You don't even got to use the fleece, you just have them in, and around the house.